Yeah, this is the kind of question: how would historians imagine something, an event like Hurricane Katrina in 50 years' time? That is obviously a rich one, but also quite a perplexing one in some ways. And the historicist in me tends to revolt a little bit at questions like that. My suspicion is that the story of Katrina in 50 years' time will be written from the concerns of 50 years' time. If Al Gore turns out to be right and we end up being sort of swamped by global warming, then Katrina will be written as a prelude to global warming. If we live in a prosperous social democracy, and I'm not holding my breath here, then perhaps Katrina would be written about as one of those moments that sort of reveals the decay of an older way of doing things, and perhaps energizes a certain kind of reformism. Thinking about what Max was saying about ways in which disaster is imagined, I've just finished reading McCarthy's novel, The Road. Has anybody read The Road here? Okay, one of you, excellent. It's an extremely grim vision of a post-apocalyptic future of cannibalism and so forth. And if that's the world in 50 years' time, they might look back at Katrina and say, wow, how amazing that there was so little cannibalism. So, with that preface, I think, nevertheless, that the historian has a function here, and I think that really what the question that's being asked of us here is to try to sort of pick out deep trends, to draw upon our disciplinary training as historians, to try to see which ways, to look at sort of patterns, cultural patterns, economic patterns, political patterns, and so forth, as they get revealed by Katrina, and then to look back at Katrina with those, from that sort of perspective here. It's drawing upon my book research, and I spent something like 12 years writing about the history of disaster and how disaster operates in American culture, society, politics, environment, and so forth, from around about 1600 to the present. And the present kept changing as I was writing this book, of course. One thing that really struck me about Katrina when it happened was the mass media representation of that event. And after 12 years of looking into the history of disaster, one thing had struck me over and over again, which is that disaster had tended to be recuperated into dominant narratives of American progress. And this could be seen even in the 17th century, and I might even provide some key moments historically to show the ways in which disaster does get folded into this narrative of progress. And what was so striking to me then, with that background, was to notice how rare it was that anybody was willing to stand up and really talk about the opportunities that this disaster provided. To be sure, there were people at Merrill Lynch, for example, were talking about how this was going to be wonderful for profits in the future and so forth. George Bush was doing his usual, we will build bigger and better, what a great opportunity to show how well America can perform in a crisis and so forth. But these kind of comments didn't get much traction, I think, in the mass media in the immediate aftermath of Katrina. And that suggested to me that something very interesting was happening, that from a 200-year perspective, it seemed that there might be some shift in the culture either happening and sort of erupting at this particular moment, getting focused at this particular moment. So what I propose to do today is to fill in some of that historical background, the ways in which disaster has been imagined as an agent of progress,